Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 430 based on novel. So let's start. That was basically himself. The youth that had recited that arrogant poem and was holding the cup of wine looked almost exactly the same as Wang Lin. The only difference was the trace of time. Although Wang Lin looked young, he had lived for over 2,000 years, so there were traces of time on his body. However, the youth drinking wine was filled with vitality and life. No matter how you looked at it, he was a mortal no more than 30 years old. Wang Lin was frozen at the spot as he looked at the boat approaching. He watched the youth put down the cup and wipe away the wine from the corner of his mouth. The servant behind the young man was in his 40s, and his head swayed as he said, "Good, the young master's poem is really extraordinary. To this little one's understanding, this poem means that what the heavens have is difficult for people to obtain." Good. The youth smiled as he picked up a fan and pointed at the servant. "Fart, this is clearly a poem left behind by ancient people. From what you say, it's as if I made it myself." The servant and smiled. He didn't seem to mind. He looked around and sighed. "Young master, we don't have a lot of silver left. Renting a boat in the river in the city of Su is not cheap. It has been 4 days, we should rush to the capital." The young man shook his head and someone poured him another cup. He took a sip and was about to speak when his body trembled. His gaze fell on the bridge ahead of him. Wang Lin was standing on top of the bridge, and for an instant, their gazes met. The young man's body trembled and his expression changed. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes and he put down his cup. He clasped his hands at Wang Lin, who was on the bridge, and said, "Brother, do you have the time to spare to come drink with me?" The tremble in Wang Lin's heart gradually calmed down and his eyes revealed a strange light. He took a step forward and floated like a leaf before landing on the boat. The 4 servants next to the young man were all shocked. They stared at Wang Lin in disbelief. What surprised them was not Wang Lin's action, but the fact that Wang Lin looked exactly the same as their young master. Wang Lin didn't speak after landing on the boat, and he sat down across from the young man. The young man carefully looked at Wang Lin, and the more he looked, the more shocked he became. This person simply looked too much like him. After hesitating for a bit, he ordered his servants to prepare another cup. Shortly after, the servant took out a clean cup and personally filled it. While he was pouring, he observed Wang Lin and was secretly shocked. "Brother looks extremely similar to me. I have seen many people while studying abroad, but I have never encountered anyone who looked so similar to me. May I ask what brother's name is?" the young man asked with curiosity, and a smile on his face. Wang Lin didn't speak. He was still pondering. He picked up the wine cup and drank it alone. Seeing that Wang Lin didn't reply, the young man didn't mind. He personally picked up the wine jug and poured another cup for Wang Lin. The soft sound of water rushing by the boat echoed as the boat gradually passed under the bridge. The dancers and singers were still there, but the people watching were silently pondering. Wang Lin drank one cup after another. The contemplation in his mind made it so the wine he drank had no taste. What the hell is going on? Why would this person appear in the human trial? Not only does he look like me, but even his soul. Wang Lin frowned and drank another cup. The young man was still smiling and no longer spoke. However, the servant beside him was not happy and complained in his heart. "This is the city of Su's ancient flower wine. It is very expensive." Night gradually arrived and a breeze that contained a chill flew by. The dancers and singers had already left, leaving only Wang Lin, the young man, and his servant. The moonlight gradually covered the earth and was reflected in the river. The breeze caused ripples to appear in the water. It was all very beautiful. The servant, already feeling impatient, looked up at the sky. Shortly after, he couldn't help but pull on the young man's cloth and winked. The young man smiled and shook his head. He ignored his servant. The servant bitterly smiled and whispered, "Young master, if we continue, we have to pay more for the boat. Also, there isn't much wine left. Drink with me." The contemplation in Wang Lin's eyes dissipated and he waved his right hand to take out a wine jug. This wine was not the dragon blood, but it wasn't ordinary wine. If a mortal drank it, their lifespan and intelligence would increase. Seeing Wang Lin pull a wine jug out of nowhere, the servant's eyes widened. There was terror in his eyes and he no longer dared to rush his master. After pouring a cup for himself, Wang Lin placed the jug at the center of the table. He drank the cup and looked up at the sky. He suddenly said, "This is the country of Zhao." The young man was also shocked by Wang Lin taking out the wine jug. After a long time, he took a deep breath and nodded. "Senior is an immortal." Wang Lin held the cup and muttered to himself, "You grew up in a mountain village. Your father is Wang Qiansui, the second son in the family, and a carpenter. Your mother is Zhu Yingsu, a member of the Zhu family who studied for a few years in a private school. When you were young, your mother taught you how to read and write." These words were like thunder to the young man's ears, and he was startled. Wang Lin let out a sigh and put down the cup. He looked at the young man with a complicated gaze and softly said, "Continue walking down the life you chose." After he finished speaking, Wang Lin stood up and looked at the moon in the sky. At this moment, the surroundings were no longer blurry, everything had become crystal clear. Wang Lin took a step toward the river and flew off into the distance. The servant on the boat trembled and slumped against the boat. There was panic in his eyes as he looked at the direction Wang Lin went and stuttered, "Real. A real immortal. Young master, a real immortal. Young master, your dream was real." The young man stared at the sky, and after a long time, he let out a deep breath. He looked at the wine jug on the table and bewilderment filled his eyes. Wang Lin floated in the air and looked at the earth below him. He was familiar with this place. It was exactly the same as the country of Zhao in planet Suzaku. When I entered this human trial with my soul, I thought I would be seeking Dao like on planet Qianyun. I didn't expect that instead of seeking Dao, it would be my inner demons. Wang Lin let out a sigh and revealed a complicated expression. "Am I tired of cultivating? How else could I have created a phantom that walked down a different path?" Wang Lin silently pondered. "Unlike that time on planet Qianyun, I know who I am, and I know that all of this is an illusion. I know that I entered here with my soul, and I know my purpose here. I need to ignite the human trial." Wang Lin raised his head, and there was a hint of melancholy in his eyes. The moment he was able to see the world clearly, he understood what the human incense was and how to ignite it. If he wanted to, he could ignite the first incense stick right now. However, I want to look at them once more before igniting the incense stick. Them. And her. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a hint of loneliness and sorrow. He knew that all of this was fake and was formed by the illusion of the human trial. However, he couldn't help but want to look at the one thing no one could touch, his bottom line. Just one gaze and then I'll ignite the human incense stick. Wang Lin took a step forward and disappeared without a trace. On the great emperor planet, everyone's gazes were locked onto the motionless figure with one hand on the first incense stick on the back of the giant tortoise. The gentle wind blew, causing the figure's long hair and clothes to flutter. The old vermilion bird revealed a hint of anxiety. He looked at the figure and became even more anxious. Why is he so slow? Given his cultivation level, this child should have already ignited the first incense stick. I expected him to take half an hour and light it after one breath. Now it has been nearly 1 hour, which is the majority of a day inside. Could it be that he hasn't spent enough time cultivating to see through it all and his soul is unwilling to leave? Master Simo revealed a sneer and stared at the figure below the first incense stick. He thought in his heart, it is only the first incense and this little bastard is already showing weakness. There is no way he can pass the trials. Once he fails this, the first young emperor will lose a lot of face before all these cultivators. Grandmaster Yun Luo frowned hard as her right hand hidden in her sleeve moved even faster. It seemed her divination had reached a critical moment. Just at this moment, the old vermilion bird's gaze staring at the figure below suddenly narrowed. Not only him, but a majority of cultivators clearly saw 2 lines of crystal tears fall from the eyes of the figure standing before the first incense. Down Master Blue Dream looked at the tears and thought to himself, the soul returns to the homeland. If the soul is filled with sadness, it will return to the body and tears of sorrow will flow. What a powerful human trial. Inside the human trial, Wang Lin stood under the Hengyu sect's mountain. He looked at the village before him as he turned away, and a trace of tears fell from his eyes. Country of Hu Fen, the Luo He sect. In the alchemy in the back mountain, a young girl with a flowered dress frowned and stared at the smoking pill furnace. She stared at the frowning middle-aged woman beside the pill furnace and whispered, "Master, Wan has failed again." The middle-aged woman glared at the girl. Fine, you always have such a pitiful look. Go to the medicine mountain and pick some water moon grass. I'll see if I can re-refine these pills." The girl stuck out her adorable tongue and quickly ran out of the alchemy room with a smile. This girl was wearing a yellow dress, and the 2 strands of hair beside her head wobbled with her, making her look very cute. She wasn't extremely beautiful, but she was very delicate. Although she still had a childish gaze in her eyes, one could see her gentle nature underneath. As the girl walked toward the mountain, she pouted and muttered to herself, "Alchemy is too difficult. Even though I am always being very attentive, I can never succeed. I wonder how brother is doing. His talent is better than mine and he is being focused on by the sect. I have to work hard so he doesn't look down upon me." As the girl walked, she stopped and looked at a blade of grass that was giving off a soft moonlight. She quickly walked up and gently picked a few leaves. She didn't realize that a lonely figure had unknowingly appeared behind her. Wang Lin stared at the girl before him. Although she looked different from how he knew her, he still recognized her at a glance. A hint of tenderness gradually appeared in his eyes. As Wang Lin stood there, bitterness filled his heart. After the girl picked up a few leaves of water moon grass, she carefully put them into her bag of holding. When she was about to leave, she suddenly stopped and walked a few steps forward. She crouched down to push away some grass to find a small beast. The small beast looked like a squirrel, and it seemed like it was dying. There was blood on its right leg. It looked like it had been bitten, and it was broken. The girl exhaled and revealed a look of pity. She took out some herbs and crushed them before gently applying them to the little beast's wound. However, these herbs were apparently not enough to allow the small beast to live. Its gaze dimmed as it had lost too much blood and was on the verge of death. The girl became anxious. She gently picked up the small beast and turned around to go back to the alchemy room to find her master. However, just as she turned around, she screamed and quickly retreated, panic appearing in her eyes. When she suddenly turned around, she naturally saw Wang Lin and was startled for a moment. Seeing the girl's frightened expression, Wang Lin's heart trembled and he gently said, "Let me." He waved his hand and a ray of white light shot toward the small beast in the girl's arms. The small beast's wound recovered before her eyes, and even its dimmed eyes regained life. The little beast that had recovered jumped out from the girl's arms. After landing on a branch, it looked back at the 2 of them and disappeared. The girl took a deep breath and patted her chest. She looked curiously at Wang Lin and softly said, "Junior Li Muwen greets Senior. Which peak did Senior come from to find my master?" Wang Lin shook his head. His gaze became even more gentle and he said, "I didn't come here looking for your master, I live here." "Live here?" Li Muwen blinked. Wang Lin smiled as he waved his sleeve and a gentle wind wrapped around Li Muwen. In an instant, the 2 of them disappeared. When they reappeared, they were at the peak of a mountain surrounded by clouds. A cave had unknowingly appeared here. Li Muwen's eyes widened as she looked at the cave, and she took a long time to recover. She then looked at Wang Lin, her eyes filled with wonder. Senior must be an old monster of my Luo He sect. Not old monster, but hidden expert. Li Muwen smiled as she retreated a few steps. There was a hint of caution in her eyes. There was no one here, and she was suddenly brought here by Wang Lin, so she was naturally nervous. Although Wang Lin didn't look evil, Li Muwen's heart still pounded. Junior came here under teacher's order to pick some herbs. I have been out for a long time. Teacher might get worried about me and come to find me. Junior should leave now. Li Muwen continued to retreat, and her words pointed out the fact that her teacher could come at any time. Wang Lin smiled. He had never seen such an expression from Li Muwen before. He nodded. Li Muwen quickly retreated and climbed down the mountain. It wasn't until she was off the mountain that she relaxed and looked back at the mountain peak. Senior sister had said that all these old monsters have quirks and some like to cultivate with cultivation furnaces. He scared me to death. That old monster silently appeared and took me to the top of the mountain. HMPH, if I hadn't reacted quickly and brought up teacher, I might have been in danger. However, that old monster looked very young and didn't seem like a bad person. Maybe I am overthinking it. After muttering to herself for a bit, Li Muwen quickly left. As Wang Lin stood on the mountain peak, his gaze could penetrate anything. He saw Li Muwen's expression and he could even clearly hear her words. It wasn't until Li Muwen had left that Wang Lin withdrew his gaze. There was a hint of joy in his eyes, but this was accompanied by melancholy. Is this place really formed by my soul or real? This place clearly doesn't exist in my memory. Wang Lin let out a sigh and no longer thought about this. He closed his eyes. After a long time, he opened his eyes and whispered to himself, I'm going to take another look and talk to her once more. Then I'll leave. And ignite the first incense stick. Time slowly passed. 1 day, 2 days. In the blink of an eye, 4 days passed. During these 4 days, Li Muwen didn't appear again. Wang Lin stayed on the top of the mountain, waiting. Just like how Li Muwen waited for his return, accompanied only by the zither music. Wang Lin didn't cultivate during these 4 days but stared at the sky as he waited. It wasn't until the afternoon of the 5th day that he heard a sound coming from the base of the mountain. Li Muwen quickly ascended up the mountain. She wiped the sweat off her forehead, and there was still fear and caution in her eyes. However, she clenched her teeth and walked toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin calmly looked at Li Muwen and revealed a gentle expression. However, in Li Muwen's eyes, this gentleness made her subconsciously retreated a few steps and she became even more cautious. Sen. Senior, can you save it? Li Muwen bit her lower lip and carefully took out a small beast the size of her palm. This small beast was like a cat, and it was still a child. It was trembling in Li Muwen's hands and his eyes were only opened a sliver. It seemed to want to open its eyes, but it had no strength. Wang Lin laughed and nodded. He raised his right hand and touched the small beast. A white light flashed and vitality entered the small beast. Its eyes slowly opened and were filled with energy. Li Muwen was surprised and gently stroked the small beast's fur. She looked at Wang Lin, and her caution gradually dissipated, but some still remained. Many thanks, Senior. Li Muwen's face was filled with joy and she bowed at Wang Lin. She quickly retreated down the mountain. It was obvious she was still on guard toward an old monster. If not for it being a last resort, she would not have come here. After Li Muwen descended from the mountain, she looked back and muttered to herself, that old monster probably isn't a bad person. This was the second time Wang Lin had sent Li Muwen off, but the reluctance in his eyes became even stronger. Just at this moment, the entire sky began to rumble and changed colors. The clouds rumbled and a giant vortex appeared. This vortex rotated rapidly, stirring up the world and giving off an unimaginable sense of majesty. This pressure was extremely shocking, and when it spread out, it covered the entire human trial. Strangely, nothing else in the world was aware of it at all. It was as if the world had changed just for Wang Lin, as if the vortex had appeared just for Wang Lin. Wang Lin, why don't you quickly ignite the human incense stick? What are you waiting for? These words formed a storm and echoed across the world. On the great Emperor planet, the old vermilion bird was worried that Wang Lin's soul was trapped inside and he couldn't pull himself out. He disregarded the rule of the trial and pressed his hand against the first incense stick. His soul rushed into Wang Lin's soul and let out a roar. It isn't difficult to ignite the human incense stick. As long as I ignite the fire in my soul and burn this illusory world until nothing remains, the human incense stick will be ignited. However, I'm unwilling. Wang Lin raised his head. There was fire burning in his eyes as he looked at the vortex in the sky. To enter this place as a soul, to hone the soul, to erase the last hint of returning back to a mortal. Turn it into a burning force and cause the soul to born. This will be integrated into the soul to become a seed that will allow the vermilion bird to awaken a fourth time. However, burning my feelings as a mortal as the price is something I can't do. Wang Lin looked up at the sky. This was the land of his soul. Although the old vermilion bird was powerful, this trial ground created by a mysterious treasure was filled with a mysterious power that made it so he couldn't be here for long. This is only an illusion, it's not real. This old man has also come here before. You just need to destroy it and ignite the incense stick to leave. Why must you be so obsessive? The old vermilion bird's voice was anxious and the vortex in the sky collapsed as his voice gradually dissipated. The moment his voice dissipated, Wang Lin's voice entered the vortex. In my whole life, I never gave up to the lingering feelings in my heart. At the ascendant stage, I chose to trigger divine retribution over giving it up. Burning this world isn't the only way to create the immortal fire seed in my soul. If the heavens will this and I must burn this world, then I'll defy the heavens. I'll take my own path, and instead of burning this world, I'll use my soul to create the fire of karma. On the great Emperor planet, the old vermilion bird withdrew his hand. He looked at Wang Lin and let out a sigh. Although Master Simo didn't know what was going on inside the human trial, he seemed to have noticed a few things. He couldn't help but sneer. Senior, it has been a long time. It seems the third young emperor had encountered an accident in the trial. Before he finished speaking, the old vermilion bird suddenly turned around and waved his hand. He slapped Master Simo once more. Master Simo coughed out blood and his body was knocked back 100,000 feet. What accident? This old man's junior is going to use his karma to burn this incense stick. It is not something a bastard like you can understand. After finishing the slap, the old vermilion bird's anger lessened and he thought, karma, good. This kid has guts to light the fire of karma. The first ancestor once said that using the immortal soul fire to reach ethereal fire is not the proper method, but only because igniting the fire of karma is extremely difficult. The ancestor only succeeded thanks to the help of the celestial emperor, which why he never gave anyone else the choice. If this child can succeed, he will be the first after the first ancestor. Inside the human trial, the vortex only Wang Lin could see collapsed as if an invisible force had torn it apart. The sky gradually returned to normal. No one else inside the human trial noticed this beside Wang Lin. It was as if none of it had happened at all. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze from the sky and sat down at the top of the mountain. To ignite the fire of karma, to create a fire with one's thought. Not to burn this world, but burn one's own soul. Using this dangerous method at the moment the soul was about to be destroyed to find path to survival and create the fire of karma. This will give the vermilion bird a chance to awaken a fourth time, breaking through to the realm of ethereal fire that was extremely rare for the members of the vermilion bird clan to enter. Ethereal fire, the source of all fire in the world. Whether it was the fire of jealousy, anger, madness, and such emotions, they could all be used by the people who had stepped into the realm of ethereal fire. Cultivators who could reach ethereal fire were very powerful. Even if they weren't as powerful as a third-step cultivator, even third-step cultivators had to beware. When facing such a cultivator, you couldn't show any emotion, because even the smallest emotional fluctuation could be used by the enemy as a method to kill you. This was a very terrifying spell. It has to be said that all living beings have emotions. No matter how indifferent a person is or how well they can hide their emotions, emotions still exist within them. Even Tao Master Blue Dream's longing for his wife and daughter could become fuel for ethereal fire. Only those who could perfectly block all emotions or completely remove them could afford not to fear ethereal fire. The true terror of an ethereal fire cultivator wasn't seen in individual battles, but in group battles. An ethereal fire cultivators could contest against thousands. Third-step cultivators knew that breaking the void gate as a thunder cultivator was extremely difficult. Thunder was something controlled by the heavens, so attempting to break the void gate with it was even more difficult. Fire essence was part of the 5 elements. Only by becoming ethereal fire could it break free from the 5 elements. If it can evolve further into Tao fire, then one can use it to burn down the void gate to become a 3rd step cultivator. Wang Lin's eyes were calm. Ethereal fire was difficult to obtain because of the fire seed required for the vermilion bird's 4th awakening. However, he wasn't willing to burn this world, so he had to choose the more difficult road. This path was a walk between life and death. Wang Lin could still choose to leave this place and fail the trial. The old vermilion bird treated me so well, so how can I give up so easily? Wang Lin murmured, and determination filled his eyes. Just like how he was unwilling to burn this world, Wang Lin cared a lot about his benefactor. He couldn't disappoint the old vermilion bird. Wang Lin took a deep breath and closed his eyes. As he closed his eyes, a blue flame erupted from his body. The flame didn't spread but burned inside his body. Outsiders couldn't see the flame, but the pain of his soul burning caused even Wang Lin to tremble. He clenched his teeth and endured his soul and obsession burning until he destroyed himself. I will enter the Tao with this obsession, and not even divine retribution will stop me. Wang Lin suddenly raised his head and his eyes opened. The flame burned brightly in his body, but no one outside could see it. Time slowly passed inside the human trial. The frequency of Li Muwen's visits to the top of mountain had gradually increased. Every time Wang Lin saw her, the burning in his soul became stronger, but he didn't reveal any of it. The gentleness in his eyes was deep like a lake. Li Muwen gradually became used to Wang Lin's expression. Sometimes, when she came up the mountain, she would curiously chat with Wang Lin. However, the very attentive Li Muwen slowly noticed that each time she came up here, the strange senior seemed a bit weaker. And even his appearance seemed to grow old. She didn't know that Wang Lin was currently suffering indescribable pain. He wanted to ignite the fire of karma, and he was using the obsession in his heart as the fuel. The stronger his obsession, the stronger the fire was. Every time he saw Li Muwen, his obsession became even stronger. The fire would become more intense and the pain would intensify. Time passed. After unknown amount of time, the fire inside Wang Lin's soul had reached a certain degree. His eyes had become unfocused and his body weak. His face had aged from a young man to a middle-aged man. It was as if 2,000 years of time had quickly descended on Wang Lin as his soul burned. Give up. You can't withstand the burning of your soul. Although this old man hasn't experienced it, from what I heard from the ancestor, I could tell that he still dreads that feeling. The collapsed vortex appeared once more in the sky. The old vermilion bird came once more because he was worried. His words were filled with worry. Wang Lin clenched his teeth, and his mind was already unclear. The intense pain was like a tide that almost drowned him. This kind of pain was several times stronger than anything Wang Lin had encountered before. Only when he faced the ancient god calamity, where his body continued to collapse and reform, did he experience comparable pain. However, there was still a big difference between these two types of pain. You're still burning your soul, but your obsession hasn't transformed into the fire of karma. This degree of pain is only the beginning. Once the fire of karma has appeared, you will go through the 9 karma retributions. Even the ancestor could only pass it under someone's protection. You can still give up now. Once your obsession turns into the fire of karma, it will destroy your soul in a flash. There will be no chance for you to turn it into karmic fire. If it wasn't for the protection of the Celestial Emperor, the ancestor wouldn't have succeeded. The old vermilion bird's voice was filled with worry. That little girl is the obsession in your heart. In this human trial, everything is only an illusion. Why are you putting yourself in such a life and death situation for an illusion? Wang Lin, why are you so obsessive? The old vermilion bird's voice became even more anxious, and there was a tone of harshness in his voice. Wang Lin didn't answer. At this moment, his mind was a blur. The pain turned into memories that flashed across his soul. His first encounter with Li Muwen, the Sea of Devils, the Cloud Sky sect, her death. Until she became a sleeping corpse in the coffin. All of these memories burned in his soul. It has been a long time. If you continue, there will be life-threatening danger. Since you are unwilling to cut yourself off from this world, then even if you end up hating this old man, I'll destroy this world for you." As the old vermilion bird's words echoed, a sea of fire suddenly appeared from the vortex. The fire spread in all directions, and in the blink of an eye, it surrounded the world. It was about to descend and burn everything. At this moment, Li Muwen appeared on the top of the mountain. She was gasping for breath and had just reached the top of the mountain. She couldn't see the fire, but in Wang Lin's blurry vision, he could see the sea of fire attempting to devour Li Muwen like a big mouth. At this instant, Wang Lin's eyes became clear and a monstrous fire appeared in his eyes. The moment the fire was about to touch Li Muwen, Wang Lin hugged her and used his back to block that sea of fire. Li Muwen was startled. As Wang Lin hugged her, he turned around and let out a roar at the sky. "I can do it! You!" The old vermilion bird was extremely angry. The fire he had sent from the sky was stopped. "Ancestor, I have cultivated for my entire life only for her. Even if it is only an illusion, this junior is unwilling to hurt her, much less destroy her." Wang Lin looked at the sky with tears flowing down his cheeks, landing on the Li Muwen in his arms. The hot tears seemed to enter her heart, and her eyes became filled with confusion. The moment Wang Lin said these words, the fire in his soul erupted, becoming several times stronger than before. There was a strand of black fire inside this fire. This black fire caused the world to change colors and completely suppressed the blue fire inside Wang Lin's soul. Fire of karma. The old vermilion bird gasped and let out a sigh. Now that your obsession has turned into fire of karma, aside from the first-generation ancestor, no one can stop you. Forget it. Since you chose it, forget it. The old vermilion bird's voice gradually dissipated, the sea of fire disappeared, and the vortex collapsed. The black fire instantly filled Wang Lin's body and took over the blue fire. In an instant, more than 80% of the blue fire had turned black. Intense pain came from his soul, causing his body to tremble. The pain became thousands of times more intense than before. His soul was being rapidly destroyed. His body rapidly dissipated, but his arms still held Li Muwen. He did his best to hide the intense pain, and he gently looked at Li Muwen. Wang Lin looked at Li Muwen and softly said, "To have you accompany me for these days, I'm very happy. Even though you're only an illusion, I won't allow anyone to hurt you." However, his voice contained a force that shocked Li Muwen's mind. "You? Who are you?" Li Muwen stared at Wang Lin. This video will end here.